Today I will show you a crime thriller film from 2019 titled Uncut Gems. Watch out, spoilers ahead. The film opens in 2010 where Ethiopian Jewish miners are digging out a rare uncut black opal from the Wella mine in Africa. In 2012, present-day, gambling addict Howard Ratner runs KMH, a jewelry store in New York City's Diamond District. He owes money to loan sharks all over town and keeps making new bets to cover the old bets, and pawning collateral he's been given to make more bets, and then buy back the collateral. He's extremely excited when he receives an uncut opal that he has worked to secure for months from a small Ethiopian Jewish mining community that he values at around $1 million, and is set to sell at an esteemed auction house. Meanwhile, he struggles to pay off his gambling debts, which include $100,000 he owes to Arno, his loan shark brother-in-law. He avoids Arno's goon, Phil, who is looking to collect on the debt Howard owes Arno, believing once he sells the opal at the auction he can pay him back. Meanwhile, Damani, who brings business and fake watches to Howard for a cut of the profit, brings Kevin Garnett, whom everyone refers to as KG, the famous basketball player, into the store. Howard excitedly shows KG the opal, which Howard had smuggled from Africa, and Kevin becomes obsessed with it, insisting on holding onto it for good luck at his game that night. He reluctantly lets him take it, but takes KG's 2008 NBA championship ring as collateral. Then he immediately sells the ring to a pawn shop to make a huge bet on KG's game that night, planning to buy it back with his winnings. His mistress, Julia, works at the jewelry store and lives in his New York City apartment, but at home outside the city, his wife Dinah and 3 kids live a suburban life. Dinah is fed up with Howard's behavior and him never being there for the kids, and plans on telling the kids that they're getting divorced after Passover. Instead of spending time with his kids, he watches the basketball game, which he wins the bet on, then goes into the city to sleep with Julia. When Howard is supposed to drop the opal off at the auction house, Damani arrives without it, saying KG wanted to keep it for his next game. Howard demands to go to KG and get it, so they drive 2 hours to where the away game is taking place. Damani goes into the locker room but leaves Howard outside, and he is forced to take a bus back to the city, furious. At Howard's daughter's school play, he sees Phil sitting several rows behind him. He asks Phil to meet him in the hallway, and then makes a run for it, but he is caught and dragged into the back of the SUV that Arno is in. His winning bet should have won him $600,000, but Arno reveals that he placed a stop on Howard's bet, since it was made with money Howard owed to him. Phil and Nico strip Howard naked and lock him in the trunk of his car. He is then forced to call Dinah to run out of the middle of the play and let him out, disgusting her. Damani finally calls him to tell him he has the opal, and Howard asks him to meet him at a nightclub party hosted by R&B singer, The Weeknd, who gets flirty with Julia. Howard goes all the way back into the city, but Damani tells him he doesn't have it and to chill, infuriating Howard. Julia and The Weeknd do drugs in the bathroom, and The Weeknd wants to have sex but Julia tells him no touching. Howard discovers they are in the bathroom together and assaults The Weeknd, getting him and Julia thrown out of the club. They get into a huge screaming match. Julia tells him he blew a huge sale for her, and he accuses her of cheating. She insists she didn't, but he demands that she move out of his apartment. Howard's extended family has Passover at Dinah's father, Gooey's place, where it is revealed that Arno is actually Dinah's sister's husband, leading to some tension, but he happily tells Gooey and Arno about the opal, implying to Arno that once it sells for $1 million he will be paid. Having broken up with Julia, he goes to Dinah and tells her they should reconsider the divorce and he's sorry for having an affair. She laughs and tells him she wishes she could never see him again. Julia then sends Howard a Craigslist link listing the apartment, so he insists on stopping at the apartment on the way out of the city. His son wants to use the bathroom, so Howard, at Dinah's insistence, brings him upstairs but asks him to use a neighbor's bathroom so he won't see Julia. However, he finds that Julia has indeed left her keys and a note. Howard's son, however, asks him who the hot woman living in the apartment is since the neighbor told him about it. He tells him never to bring it up, and his son looks at him, disillusioned. KG finally brings the opal back, offering Howard $175,000 in cash for it, but he tells him it will sell for $1 million at auction and he can't accept KG's offer and tells him to bid on it himself. Garnett demands his ring back, but he lies and says it's at his house. After Garnett leaves in dismay, he berates Demany for allowing Garnett to hold on to the opal for so long. Enraged, Demany quits and trashes Howard's office. Howard rushes the opal to the auction house, who has been calling him demanding the item. Just before the auction starts, he is furious to see the auction house appraisal puts the opal closer to $100,000 to $200,000, significantly less than his initial estimate of $1 million. KG has arrived to bid on it himself, and since the price has been lowered, Howard begs Gooey to bid against KG to drive up the price, promising him he won't have to pay for it. Gooey and KG go back and forth, and Howard encourages Gooey to get the price up to $200,000, but KG fails to top Gooey's final bid. A furious Gooey gives him the opal. Howard is horrified. He tells Gooey he will pay him back once he is paid out, and now owes Gooey the money the auction house took out. Arno witnesses everything and confronts Howard outside. Phil gives him a good beating and throws him into a fountain. He returns to his office, bloody, wet, and devastated. Demany shows up, angry that he didn't take KG's cash offer, and finds that he has apparently been selling all the fake watches he gave him without any cut. He'd been giving them out to try to pay his gambling debts. Demary leaves, through with Howard, dumping juice into his fish tank. Julia goes into the back office and finds him sobbing, and she shows him her new tattoo of his name on her to try to cheer him up. Howard gets a phone call that KG is willing to pay cash for the opal again, and he rejoices, having caught a break. He trades his last prized possession, another championship ring, to get KG's ring back from the pawn shop. KG arrives and gives him the cash for the opal, but judges him out over the way he used the African miners and made a profit off of them. Howard compares it to KG, who doesn't play to break even and plays to win. He shows KG the gambling odds for his game tonight and pumps him up, getting him ready to destroy the other team. With KG's money, he has enough money to repay his debt to Arno. However, he decides to bet all the cash KG gave him, the $175,000 minus Demany's $6,000 cut, on KG's game that night. But just before Garnett leaves, Arno, Phil, and Nico arrive at KMH, waiting for their cut of the KG cash. Before they enter his office, Howard tells Julia to bet the cash on a three-way parlay on Garnett having a strong performance. He has Julia go to an office next door and hands her the money out of the window and buys her a helicopter ticket directly to the Mohegan Sun Casino. Julia escapes as the thugs find Howard in his office and threaten him. Arno and Phil enter his office, finding the money gone. Arno tells Howard to call Julia and cancel the bet, but he refuses. They send a goon to the casino after Julia and interrogates him further. Realizing he doesn't have the money, the three attempt to pursue Julia, but Howard locks them in between the store's security doors using the magnetic locks. He promises them excitedly they're about to win big and puts on the game. Phil pulls a gun and threatens to shoot his way out, but Howard assures him the glass is bulletproof and it would only hurt them. Phil makes an ominous phone call, and Howard calls Dinah and tells her to take the kids and go to her sister's. Julia makes Howard's bet at the casino while hiding from the goon, and everyone tensely watches the game play out. Howard's bet actually pays off, winning $1.2 million. Overjoyed, he calls Julia and tells her they're going to live the high life. Knowing he can pay them their money, Howard happily frees Arno, Phil and Nico, but the enraged Phil shoots Howard in the face, instantly killing him. Arno is horrified, and Phil and his cohort immediately begin robbing the shop of every piece of jewelry. Arno tries to flee and Phil shoots him too. Julia leaves the casino with Howard's winnings as Phil and Nico loot the store.
What are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Turn on notifications and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay safe.